Hello guys, welcome back to John's workshop, and in this video it's going to be a new bit of equipment that's come into the workshop. So this is my new belt and disc sander. It's something that I've really needed in the workshop for quite some time. All I've got at the moment in that respect is either my twin wheel grindstone offhand grinder that you've seen, or angle grinders with various different attachments on, grinding wheels, cutting discs, that kind of thing. So everything I want to, like radius, deburr, brake edge, that kind of thing, you know, you can't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing that on your offhand grinder. So really I'm limited to angle grinders with flat discs and things like that. So something that I've been missing in the shop for a long time. I was in Lidl's earlier in the week, spotted this, it was on at a reasonable price, and I thought, well, it looks pretty decent. I've had Lidl stuff before. It's Parkside, that's their brand. I've got some other Parkside stuff that I've had in the shop. You know, it's not production standard stuff by any means. It certainly wouldn't last the test of time in a production environment, but for light usage in a home shop, the stuff I've had from Lidl's, the Parkside stuff in the past, has always been pretty reasonable quality, really. It stands up well, stands the test of time, so I thought it was worth a punt. It was about £77, £78, something like that, and it's a combined belt, almost in a Linisher style, horizontal flat sander, and it's got a disc sander on it as well. So we're going to do an unboxing light. I'm not into unboxing videos, but we're just going, you know, it's still in the box as it came. We're just going to get it up on the bench, get it out of the box, see what comes in it. I'm not going to go into detail of that, just basically unpack it. I'll show you a little bit of that, and then we're going to have a bit of a shuffle round. We'll get it set up on the bench, we'll plug it in, and I've got some brackets that I'm making as part of another project that will be in next week's video that could do with a bit of attention on them, and so we'll give it a test and see what we think of it. So I think that's probably everything on the board, sorry. We'll do a bit of a conclusion and decide whether we think it's worth the money or not, in case anybody else fancies grabbing one of these while they're in Lidl's at the moment, and just, yeah, see it in its probably final position and give it a bit of a try. So with all that being said, I think that's it for the board. So without any more babbling, let's dig in. Okay, so here's the unit. Parkside belt and disc sander. You can see the configuration, nice big wide flat belt, and with a disc, with a table, with an angle piece on it, so it looks fairly useful. 3-year warranty on it. So a year with Lidl's, and then I think 2 years with Parkside themselves. So, you know, 3-year warranty on something this price, you can't really go wrong. So I don't want this to be an unboxing video, we're just going to get into it. Hopefully this thing is just in one bit and it doesn't need much assembly. Instructions, we may read those later. My favourite polystyrene, which I hate. That looks like the angled table unit. It's a good fit. See if we can get it out this way instead. Get rid of the box. there we go. An interesting thing. I'll read the instructions before I break something. I will have a quick read of the instructions. We'll get this over on the bench and we'll get the various bits and pieces fitted to it. You don't need to watch me do that. That's just going to be nuts and bolts fitting the tables and bits and pieces like that. So I'll go and get that done now. We'll get it over where it's going to live and I'll bring you back once I've understood a little bit more about it. But yeah, fairly basic, not a lot to do to this thing I don't think by the looks of it. So I'll bring you back shortly. Okay, so we've got the thing put together, fairly simple. Literally 2 screws to hold this stop on, which is where you grind up to, and 1 screw to hold this table in place, and the angle piece just runs in a slot. So dimensions wise, we're 150mm diameter sanding disc, which has got hook and loop backing on it, and then the belt itself is 100mm wide. Give you some kind of idea of size. 370 watts is the power consumption, and that's obviously inherent in the name. So the part number is PBTS370B2. That's the part number. This table here for the sanding disc is adjustable in 2 directions. I don't know if you can see just down here we've got a scale there which goes everything from 0 to 45 degrees, so I can alter the angle of the table from 0 to 45, albeit you can't hit 45 because the table hits the bench. So if you want to get 45, you've got to stand this up on some wooden blocks or something so that you've got the room here to let this go all the way down to 45. So yeah, slightly poor design from that perspective, but I guess this is all to do with size from a packaging point of view. On this bevel piece here on the protractor, we can go from +60 to -60 degrees for beveling, chamfering up against the sanding disc. So again, it's just a scale in the plastic here, but you know, this is a Linisher belt sander at the end of the day. It's not a machine tool. So that's that, and then I'll just zoom out a little bit. The next thing, you can run this in either the horizontal or the vertical mode. So again, a little bit of poor design work. From that perspective, once you get it into the vertical mode and you've dropped everything on the floor, there is an Allen key just in here that you need to lock back up to get it to, you know, to be safe to use in the vertical mode, so it's not just moving against the pressure. And obviously with this stop plate in place, you can't really access that Allen key anymore. So to do that, you've got to take all of this stop off to get to that Allen key, which is really shoddy design, to be honest. They could have put that Allen key in a different position, or that cap head clamp unit in a different position, so that you can actually physically get to it from without having to remove this top piece. It's only 2 screws, but yeah, just a bit of poor design from that perspective. But largely, you know, it's a fairly solid unit. It's not all tinny and rattly. You know, bearing in mind this is 70 odd pound. You know, it's not going to be brilliant, but yeah, it feels quite sturdy. I've got a belt adjuster here. This is to adjust the tracking of the belt, so it runs in a straight line. And then we've got a belt tensioner. That's what this lever is here, and this is obviously for removing, the belt. When you pull this lever out, you'll see the belt. It slackens the tension off on the rollers. Now I don't know whether there's any adjustment on that. It's spring loaded, I don't know whether there's any adjustment on that to alter the tension of the rollers. I'll have to dig in and see if there is anything. This does feel a little bit slack, if I'm honest, this belt, but it seems to be tracking okay, so we'll leave it at that. So with all of that being said, we'll shift it from this position to its final resting place on the bench, and we'll get it plugged in and see what it sounds like. Okay, we've got it set up. There is a little bit of tinny rattly. This is the kind of the plate underneath. I'll see if I can do something to tighten that up a little bit. It does rattle around a little bit, but so it's fairly quiet. Other than that tinny rattling noise, which I'll see if I can fix. So yeah, I've got some sort of brackets that I'm making up for next week's video. I've had a bit of a play, just basically putting them on, dusting corners off. Just show you a bit of that. So ideal for those types of jobs. And I've got a piece of aluminium here that's got a, this is a saw cut face, so we're just going to drop that on the top plate and see how that goes. Well, it fairly rips the material off, especially in aluminium. That's cleaned that up very nicely. So, a question: if you didn't have one of these, but you did have one of these, could you fix one of these? If you can see the state of that, it's not, I've not let a drill get into that state. I've got a box of old drills, bits and pieces, so just curious as to whether you can grind something like that up if you've only got space for one item in your workshop. So let's give it a try and see what happens. Not quite as easy to control as it is on a grinding wheel, but certainly that's had no problem at all grinding that up. I'm struggling, it's the first time I've ever done it, so not quite got my usual hand ground, offhand ground drill, but that would definitely cut. It's taken, I've probably got a bit too much relief on there, and I've not measured the angle up or checked any of the centre of that, but that would certainly cut. So, and it's quite okay, it's not ripped the sanding disc to bits. So yeah, you could if you'd only got one of these things, you didn't have a grinder, you could quite happily grind drills up if you needed to. So overall, I mean, obviously the proof of this will be in the pudding. Well, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, or whatever they say. You know, I'll get to grips with this over time. I do want to fix this sort of rattliness. I'll have a bit of a look and see if I can do something with that. But yeah, for 70 odd quid, that's a useful addition to the workshop, I would say. It's going to be very nice for, you know, like the bracket I just did earlier on, or if I'm doing something that doesn't need to be a machine finish and I just want to put a nice finish on a bit of aluminium for something decorative, or just for deburring, that kind of thing. I don't think you can go wrong at that money with a 3-year warranty on it. You know, what's not to like? And obviously, as I showed earlier, it can go vertical as well, so quite a versatile bit of kit. So I'll just bring you back to the board and we'll close this little episode out. So there we go, guys, that's kind of the end of this. It's probably a bit of a short episode for this week. Just thought I'd show that, something new coming into the workshop that I think is going to be very useful. So I hope that's been useful to somebody. If you know, they're in Lidl's at the moment, if anybody wants one of these things, pop into your local Lidl's and pick one up. For that kind of money, you really can't go wrong with a 3-year warranty on it. As I said, does the job, rattles around a little bit, but I'm sure most of that's fixable. And yeah, very useful addition to the workshop, as I said, for various different bits of sort of polishing, deburring, that kind of thing, shaping, rounding of edges, things like that, grinding drills potentially if you wanted to get into that. You know, I definitely wouldn't use it for that. I found it much more difficult to hand grind a drill on that sanding disc than I would do on a grinding wheel, but that's because that's what I'm used to. So, but yeah, you could do that. You could potentially rough grind planer blades for a wood plane, things like that, to get the basic shape in before you start then going into the sort of oil stoning. If you're into knife making, things like that, you could use that as a linishing belt, grinding belt for putting the bevels on knives, things like that. So it's got a multitude of uses. Very useful addition to the shop. If you're into wood, you know, if wood's your thing, I'm pretty sure it would be equally as happy doing wood as it is doing metal. It has got a extraction hole in the side for plugging in a shop vac, that kind of thing, an extractor to keep the dust down. So yeah, quite a versatile bit of kit for the money. So as I said, hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you to the subscribers, thank you to the new subscribers, and we will catch you all very soon on another video when we'll be making something else.